It was a warm morning when Nigeria's Inspector General of Police, Ola Tonji, descended from the helicopter onto the dusty makeshift airstrip of Kayama, a remote town in the heart of Quir State. This was not a ceremonial arrival or a ribbon-cutting event. It was in precise and calculated terms, both a symbolic and strategic gesture. The nation's top police officer traveling hundreds of kilometers from the national headquarters in Abuja to meet, face-to-face, with the men and women who had carried out one of the most significant anti-bandit operations in recent memory. The weight of this journey, rare, carefully planned, and highly publicized by authorities, spoke to the severity of the threat that had plagued the region and to the turning point represented by its recent defeat. Just weeks earlier, Quir State had been a territory under siege. It was not merely a collection of isolated villages and rural roads. It was a place where fear had become a constant landscape. Heavily armed gangs had claimed the dense forests of Awi, Kayama, and Saraji as their own. Roads that once connected markets and communities had transformed into corridors of terror. Cattle herders watched over their livestock with hearts tight with anxiety, fearing that at dawn, nothing would remain but tracks in the dirt. Travelers avoided certain routes, knowing they were easy targets for kidnapping, robbery, or being dragged into the bush. Day after day, normal life bent under persistent threat of armed men, hidden lethal. Local authorities spoke of gangs, but deeper investigations revealed something far more complex. These were not loosely organized, improvising groups. This was an organized network, a web of criminal cells interconnected and operating with discipline, synchronization, and calculated intent, controlling territory, exploiting fear, and monetizing insecurity. This was not rural petty crime. It was modern criminality, resembling an underground army more than isolated bandits. The Kayama police operation that led to the dismantling of this network began, as all major campaigns do, long before any shots were fired. It was not a fortuitous display of brute force, but a result of weeks of intelligence work, covert operations, and interagency collaboration. State officers, intelligence analysts, and field agents worked together in teams that literally traversed hidden trails, established networks of local informants, and compiled movement patterns of the criminals. Every piece of information, every brave villager's testimony, every intercepted signal came together to form a bigger picture. Precise locations of hideouts, communication routes, patrol timings, and gang rotations. The precision of the operation was evident the day tactical units moved into heavily defended camps. In a single, synchronized action, 32 armed individuals were captured alive. It was not luck. It was, as officers later described, the product of strategic patience, silent tracking, waiting for the right moment, and acting with flawless coordination. Intelligence had identified not only the locations, but the routines within the camps, the distribution of weapons, and how the criminals communicated. These captured men were not mere cattle thieves acting without connections. Authorities confirmed that among them were individuals from the Republic of Niger, which transformed Quir's insecurity into a more complex issue, a cross-border problem. The presence of foreign nationals, according to police spokesperson SP Adedanji, demonstrated wider alliances. It was not just local road insecurity. It was a manifestation of criminal networks extending beyond state and national boundaries. This foreign presence indicated that the criminal phenomenon was a node in a broader, interconnected web, but the complexity did not end there. The investigation revealed sophisticated logistics supporting these gangs. They did not rely on rudimentary tools or improvised equipment. To coordinate attacks, kidnappings, and ambushes, they used specialized tactical devices, private frequency radios, and camouflage hydration backpacks that allowed them to remain in harsh conditions for long periods without leaving the area. They did not settle for ordinary mobile phones, which could be intercepted, but relied on dedicated devices, difficult to trace, giving them a clear operational advantage over unprepared patrols. When police entered the camps, they seized not only the individuals, but also the devices that symbolize the gang's operational capacity. For AK-47 rifles, 38 rounds of ammunition, long-range communication radios, and the camouflage hydration backpacks. For the local community, the removal of these tools was more than confiscating weapons. It meant neutralizing sustained capacity for violence, a serious weakening of a structure that had terrorized them for months. The public display of the arrested suspects and seized equipment was a calculated move. Beyond demonstrating tactical success, it sent a clear message. Law enforcement in Quir State is not a shadow moving among the trees. It is a strategic, capable force, equipped with intelligence, resources, and determination to confront complex threats. Official statements were measured, combining firmness with institutional responsibility. CP Adekomojo, State Police Commander, emphasized that the Kiama operation was not a final endpoint, but a milestone within a continuing effort. "We will not ease pressure," he stated, "and investigations will track all participants, informants, and logistical supporters, both local and foreign." This focus on continuity is significant. For years, many regions affected by crime saw police operations that, while appearing successful, failed to dismantle underlying networks. In Quir, what emerged was a deeper institutional understanding. Organized crime cannot be defeated through reactive patrols or isolated arrests alone. State police, reinforced by federal support, adopted an approach prioritizing intelligence over improvisation, strategy over mere presence, and community cooperation over unilateral action. This approach also highlights the importance of community involvement. Local informants did not act purely out of altruism. Many acted from fear and an urgent desire to restore normal life. Without the cooperation of residents, sharing critical information about movements, hideouts, and routines, the operation would have been exponentially more difficult. This underscores a central fact. Effective security operations arise at the intersection of local knowledge, institutional will, and meticulous planning. The context of this operation also reflects broader security challenges across Nigeria. The nation faces a mosaic of threats, from insurgencies in the northeast to illicit cultivation, arms trafficking, and territorial criminal gangs. The presence of individuals from Niger demonstrates that strengthening internal security alone is insufficient. Robust regional security policies, efficient intelligence sharing, and multilateral strategies with neighboring nations are required. The Kiama operation highlights the interplay between domestic policies and cross-border criminal dynamics, a reminder that comprehensive approaches are essential. Another emerging issue is the regulation of dual-use items, such as high-frequency communication devices and tactical equipment, which, while legitimate for commercial purposes, can be exploited by criminal organizations. Should stricter controls be applied to their sale and distribution? Is greater oversight necessary for devices that, in isolated rural settings, have legitimate uses, but can be weaponized by criminal networks? These questions extend beyond policing to the broader challenge of balancing commercial freedom with public safety. Restoring security in areas like Quir State has profound social and economic implications. When herders, merchants, and farmers can move without fear, local economies flourish, social cohesion strengthens, and public trust in institutions grows. Conversely, when fear dominates, markets shrink, school attendance declines, and community bonds fray. The police operation was not merely defeating armed criminals. It was a measured intervention to restore conditions conducive to normal civilian life. At the same time, Inspector General Ola Tonji's visit underscored a critical point. Security is not only an urban or central concern. Even remote corners like Kiama received direct attention from the highest levels of the security apparatus. His presence was not propaganda. It was a tangible reaffirmation that the state recognizes the importance of addressing problems at their root and maintaining the morale of officers operating far from media spotlight. Political ramifications also demand careful consideration. By publicly backing the operation and framing it as an intelligence-driven success, the federal government sends a message to other crime-affected regions. There's an alternative to simplistic or purely repressive responses. This measured approach distinguishes between indiscriminate force and precision actions aimed at dismantling criminal structures without compromising due process or human rights. The capture of 32 suspects alive, rather than their elimination in combat, reinforces procedural respect and long-term institutional legitimacy. Yet much remains to be done. The announced pursuit of collaborators, informants, and logistical supporters indicates that the problem may have been more widespread than initially understood. The dismantled Kiama network could be just a segment of a larger framework, requiring similar operations elsewhere. In this sense, Quir serves as a case study, a model showing how intelligence, community cooperation, and tactical capability can yield measurable victories. It also raises deeper questions about preventing the reformation of criminal networks. deterring opportunistic replacements, and providing socioeconomic alternatives that reduce participation in armed groups. Security is not merely the absence of violence. It is a creation of conditions that decrease incentives for crime. Comprehensive policies, including education, economic development, and social inclusion programs, are especially critical in isolated rural areas. As the lens moves away from Kiama and its forests, the broader significance becomes clear. This is not a phenomenon confined to one state or community. Transnational crime, technologically sophisticated gangs, and interconnected forms of organized violence demand responses that transcend administrative boundaries and rely on regional cooperation and institutional strength. The police operation in Quir State and the visit of Inspector General Ola Tonji, due that capped it, was not a singular event or a simple news headline. It was a turning point, showing that when intelligence precedes improvisation, cooperation replaces isolation, and communities and law enforcement work together. Even deeply entrenched threats can be confronted successfully. It is a lesson that resonates beyond Nigeria, relevant anywhere organized crime undermines institutional trust. Ultimately, what began as a story of fear and violence in the forests of Awi, Kiama, and Saraji became a narrative of resilience, strategy, and hope. It is not a story of finality, but of ongoing processes, sustained struggle, and the constant pursuit of safer communities. Security is not static. It is built daily through the efforts of citizens, institutions, and leaders committed to confronting challenges with intelligence and resolve. This account, analyzed with rigor, invites reflection on contemporary security mechanisms, critical evaluation of simplistic responses, and appreciation for approaches that prioritize precision, justice, and cooperation. As we continue to follow stories like Quir State, audiences are encouraged to remain vigilant, think critically, and understand that behind every police operation are human lives, aspirations for peace, and the unrelenting pursuit of a safer future for all.